So welcome everyone. I'm dialing in from New Zealand. Sophia's in the UK. So really thrilled to be bringing this live to you. Thank you so much for sending through all your questions. Sophia and I were amazed at how willing you were to share some of your challenges and some of your sort of questions that you might want to deal with. So we have a big list of questions that we can talk to. Obviously, if you've got questions that you would like to ask live, feel free to click on the Q&A or the chat box. We'll do our best to answer them as we go through. Sophia, what's up first?
I think the first one we're going to go in with is time. So that was a big kind of issue that came in for a lot of people. Making the time and just finding the time for marketing. So I think it's an issue most people have. So the best place to probably start is with a plan. So you can create a marketing plan and just make it a non-negotiable. So, be realistic with what you can fit in. And once you've created that plan and some goals of what content you want to put out, you can start with dedicating, it can just start simple with 10 minutes a day or allocating 1 hour per week to enact that plan as well. So you can also share that amongst your team. So you can delegate to a team member. So for example, they just do one social post per week or they do every third newsletter.
And a plan doesn't have to be, we're not sort of talking about a plan as if you were Ford Motors and you're like, right, it's going to be a 50-page plan. The plan could be, we want to be active on social, we want to at least send our clients one newsletter a month, and we want to run one event every quarter. That's how simple it can be. But by the sheer act of writing it down, sharing it with your team, having it as a goal, that will really help, rather than sort of wondering like, oh, what should we do this month? You know what you have agreed to, whether it's you individually or your firm, and that just sort of having some, I suppose, goalpost to aim for will really make a big difference in terms of finding the time and sort of knowing why you're doing something. Another one we were asked a lot, and this is about 8 questions sort of amalgamated into one answer, but it's all about social media. So what's the best way to do it, or how do I do it? How do I promote my firm or myself on social media? How do I do it with, when I don't have very much time, as Sophia was just talking about, or if my team is really stretched and we don't have a lot of resources to put at it. So my advice, sort of in a general social media sense, and we do run social media webinars where we talk about nothing but social media. But my advice is to start up by selecting a couple of social media channels you want to be present on. So think about where your clients and your prospects are. Are they all on Facebook? Are they all on Twitter? Maybe they're all on LinkedIn. A really easy way to do it is to go and ask some of your clients, hey, what are the social media networks that you spend your time on? If you were sort of researching things other than Google, what social networks would you use? I would, from what I've seen, and I know a lot of accountants have done this, their clients are always really happy to tell them. Same thing, you could do some research. You could actually go and look at some prospects or some people that you'd like to target, and again, see where they're spending their time. If their business is really active on Instagram and say LinkedIn, chances are the people in that business will be too. So that's step one, is select a couple. And I say a couple rather than necessarily all of them, because the more channels you have, that's just more admin to do, and then start up in them. Make sure you have a really good personal profile or a business page. So when I say a good one, it's not necessarily that you just want a good photo. Make sure that you also have all the relevant information about your firm. So where you're located, what your website address is, what your opening hours are. If you do have some good photos, that's always great to have as well. Make sure you have a brand, your logo on there, and make sure it's consistent across all the social channels and your website. People do use social media channels to research accounting and bookkeeping firms, as well as websites. And even if they get a referral, 80% of people are likely to go online and do some research. So if they come to a social site and you've sort of, doesn't matter how good your website is, if you've got an all over the place social media channel and nothing's really been posted there, and it just sort of looks like a bit of a train wreck, that's probably going to be, that's probably not going to help your cause. In terms of getting started, so start by engaging with some other relevant pages. So this might be your clients' pages. So go and follow them. That's always a good thing. Go and follow people that you'd like to be working with. Industry bodies is another great one. So whether it's your local, maybe it's your local banking industry or a local charter in the sort of in the town or the city you're in that you want to be more involved in, that's a great place to start. Xero is another good one, and all the Xero apps are great because oftentimes your clients and prospects will be using them too, and they're a great source of information in terms of what's happening out there and what might be relevant for you. So those sorts of conversations. So you're going to start to see a lot of conversations out there, and you can choose to get involved in some of them if you think they're relevant to who you are as a firm, and if you think you can add value and maybe demonstrate some of that expertise. It's a really easy way just to sort of dip your toe in and start to get your profile out there. People will notice you, and if you start posting, really interesting comments and helpful insights, they do pay attention to them. You can obviously start posting as well. You don't just have to comment on other people's posts. You can start posting. So this could be your view on a particular issue that's just come out. So the budget's come out, or it's nearly bank holiday. There's no reason why you can't just start to sort of do short posts as well. Or you could do links to stories. And so this could be stories that you've done. So it could be to your blog site or to a video on your website, or it could be to something that you've seen out there in the industry or in the marketplace that you think your followers should be aware of. Make sure to always use hashtags to help your post be searchable. So that's using the hashtag symbol, and then sort of something key after it. So like hashtag your firm name, or hashtag a topic that you're speaking about. So it could be hashtag tax, hashtag SMB, and these are really key to helping your post be more searchable. So while we are talking obviously a lot about being professional, because you are obviously professionals, don't forget to keep it real to who you are. So your social media, I suppose, profile and your personality, they should be pretty similar, because obviously, if someone follows you on social media and then meets you in person, or meets someone from your firm in person, and there's a sort of completely 180 degrees flip, that's a bit off-putting. So it's great to show some personality and not always be too serious. And there are ways that you can do that. You could post an update from work, and I've seen lots of accountants and bookkeepers who maybe if they have a pet at work, and they might post that and their clients love it. Or it could be work drinks. The reason why clients engage with that is because it's personal and it's relatable. So it doesn't always have to be that you're talking about taxation or GST. If you're in this side of the world, or VAT in the UK, it's I suppose showing your human side. One thing I would always say is steer clear of politics, religion, keep it in good taste, and of course nothing inappropriate. What might seem funny at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, by the time it's sort of gone through a couple of people have sort of liked and commented on it, and maybe they said some harsh things, and you sort of wake up on Monday and thinking, goodness me, why did I do that? If you're thinking it's a bit risky, it's better not to post it. In terms of doing it efficiently, and to Sophie's point in terms of time, and how do you do social media, because it is quite time consuming if you're writing posts and getting them across all the different social channels. Look, I'm obviously going to push Boma. So Boma has got a huge content library. It's got all the posts written for you. It goes out across all your social networks, and you can schedule it in advance, and you can customize them. So whether you're looking for an update on Making Tax Digital, or the budget, or you just want to talk to your clients about an issue, maybe it's marketing, could be strategy, you can go into Boma and choose the right topic. And that will just mean that you don't have to write 100% of the post that you're sending out. We often find on Boma that our users, it's about 60-40. So 60% of the time they use Boma to send out topics that are industry-wide and their clients need to know about, and the other 40% of the time is things that are really personal to them and are sort of in the moment. And then the last thing to do is just to think about a cadence that you and your team can handle. And if you think of this a bit like going to the gym, in the first week of January, and you sort of start off in the first week and you go 10 times, almost twice a day, and you think, oh my goodness, this is great, and then you burn out. social is a little bit like this. So think about a cadence that you guys can handle. So this might be as much as a couple of posts a day, or it might be a couple of posts a week. It's really up to you. As Sophia said, if you have a plan, then that will help determine how often you think you need to post, and also we'll put some responsibilities beside who in your organization might be posting. Sophia, what's next?
Sorry, just going back to your point, that gave me reminded me of something that someone told me last week, where motivation is like the playboy of emotions. So if you wait for motivation to post, it's gonna come once a month, and you're not going to do it consistently. So that's where, again, going back to the plan, it's you can have something to adhere to and like to hold yourself accountable for as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
great point.
some great. Yeah, so next was an issue deciding on what content's relevant to us and to you. So as we keep going on, a plan is a great idea, because this is something that you have to refer back to make sure that your content is consistent and in line with your goals and your ideas, and also your company ethos. So it's easy to share content that might not be relevant to your audience. So it's you think at that time it's a fun piece, but it's just not going to be relevant, and it's not going to be aimed at the right clientele that you want. An easy way to obviously access relevant content is joining Boma. So we have masses of content at your fingertips, and also it's cleverly divided into different categories. So, you have your tax, compliance, HR, management and strategy. So you can, when you're making your plan, you can apply this to that, which is going to help with your consistency and saving you time as well. But yeah, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I was just going to say, I'm just going to pop into the chat. So we've actually got a content planner. So I've just put the link into the chat. It's a content planner. Feel free to click in there and download it from Google. It's just hosted on Google Docs. And you can use that to think about, I suppose it will help you generate ideas. And whether it's for ideas for an event or email or any of the social channels, it's a really good way just to think about using it. And then you can actually go through and say, okay, how would that look on a weekly basis, and how would that look on a daily basis? So a really good resource there. I hope you take advantage of it. So getting on to our next question, and this was, how often should I post content? I thought this was a really interesting question, because this could mean a couple of things. So, are we talking about social media channels? Are we talking about on your website? Are we talking about email? Because really, it's all about, how many messages are you trying to get out there, and what channels, and who who you're trying to reach. So if we're talking about social media, then always good to think about what social media channel you're on. So as I said before, pick a couple of channels, especially if you're just getting started, and this will help you decide how often you could post. So on Twitter is the great fire hose of content. And I'm sure you guys are on there on a personal level, and there are just millions and millions of tweets coming the whole time. So if you're posting personally or as a business, you can post multiple times a day, and you can post exactly the same thing if you want. And you're probably going to be seen by a new audience and new followers every time, just because of the sheer overload of content that comes through Twitter. Whereas LinkedIn, it's much more, I suppose it's much more curated. So once a week, maybe twice a week is really good on LinkedIn. Even once a month is fine. Facebook and Instagram are a little bit more in between. So you could do a couple of posts on Facebook or Instagram every day. It's easy. Or you might say, look, just once a week is fine. In terms of actually the types of content, this is kind of relevant to how often is also the types of content. So Twitter is great for sort of very short, snappy, concise posts. Obviously, you're limited to 280 characters. So you sort of have to be very, as I said, concise in what you're saying. So you could sort of have a sentence or two, a couple of hashtags, and then you could link people through to maybe your website or the article that you want them to read. LinkedIn and Facebook, you obviously can write much more. So you could write, you could write a couple hundred words, and people often do, and that's absolutely fine. Twitter and Instagram, you can also share. They're great for photos and videos. Facebook is probably the best place to share videos, just because you can upload a video which is an hour long, whereas Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram, you're limited by time. So I think it's limited to maybe under a minute or 2 minutes max. So if you had a short video, like whereas it was an ad, or if it was a short snippet of a longer video you've done, those are good places to do it. As I said before, in terms of cadence, whatever the cadence that is right for your business is, I would always choose quality over quantity. So you can get into of sort of thinking, right, we always need to be posting, at that cadence. So it's either every day or every second day. I would always take a step back, and this is where that content calendar is really good, because you can say, okay, what are the goals we're trying to reach? That's right, we're trying to talk about this particular topic, and trying to make sure that people in the industry, or sort of clients and contacts, realize that we're really experts in this. So it makes sense that we are sort of posting once a week on this topic, and the fact that we're not necessarily posting anymore is fine, because if you sort of over post and it's not very relevant to your users, and it's just you're sort of spamming them online, they'll just kind of lose interest. So that's something to think about. In terms of your website blog, so I'm already assuming that you have a website, that you have about us pages, contact us pages, you have your services and products pages. So in terms of blogs specifically, really the more the better in terms of content up there. So the more content that you have up there, the better it's going to be for search engine optimization and your search ranking in Google and the other search engines. So basically, if you want to be ranked for specific topics, so maybe it's you want to be ranked for accountant in your town, and who deals with taxation, or maybe it's retirement planning, or maybe it's business continuity. Write blogs that talk to those topics and then post them on your website. And then even better, pop them onto your social media channels and post them through that and link them back to your website. So, if you currently have not many pages on your blog, or you don't have any at all, a lot of content on Boma you can actually post on there as well. So as with all content on Boma, I'd suggest that you make it your own. So you can do this by adding in a little bit of opinion at the beginning or at the end, and obviously you can add your own imagery and you can edit it all as well. So customization is always good, but if you're looking for a place to start, especially on pretty generic topics, great place to start in Boma.
Just going back to your point before as well, like, don't be shy to spread posts out. So if you have, I know you said 60% would be content and 40% is kind of personal to your business. If you've had a busy week on the personal side of things, events and things like that, if it's relevant to the date, post it. But things like work drinks, you can spread that out over a few weeks. So if work drinks happened 2 weeks ago, that's fine. Your clients don't know. So yeah, don't be shy to kind of spread content out and keep it in the back burner for a quiet week.
That's a great idea. And I suppose that's where the idea of scheduling comes in. So whether you just want to schedule them all at once, and you could say, great, I'm going to schedule 2 for this week, 2 for next week, and 2 for the following week, then you sort of can relax knowing that they're all done. And if another one happens to pop up and you want to sort of post it on the day, then that's absolutely fine. But yeah, I really like that idea of, metering out the content, so you're sort of being active, you appear active all the time.
That actually goes on to the next point that kind of is related, which is getting stuff out consistently. So that was a big thing, an issue that came in, is making that consistency. So going back again to this content plan, that's going to be really useful to have something to adhere to and hold yourself accountable for. So make it a non-negotiable. A great tip is to mark it out in your calendar. So find that time in the week where you'll have, even you can, like I said before, you can have a whole hour dedicated to it, or even if it's just 10 minutes a day, you can put, in the morning, block that out in your calendar so you get it out the way and don't have to think about it for the rest of the day. But yeah, that's our
Well,
point.
we had quite a few questions around, I suppose, audience building, how to start to engage with new clients and prospects. How do you, I suppose, how do you build those lists? So this might be that you're starting out, or you want to, I suppose, get new clients. So this again is sort of a multi-part answer, because there's not necessarily any one thing that is going to solve everything for you, but there's lots of small things that you can do that when you put them together can be really effective. So a good place to start is on your website. So make sure that you have across your website, you have newsletter and email sign-up forms. So this could be in the footer or in the header, could even be scattered throughout the sort of main section of your website, and just ask people to sign up for updates. Also great to have a contact us form. So the benefit of these is that they'll help capture email addresses. And so, whether it's someone is contacting you for sort of a specific, I would like to talk about a specific business issue that you might be able to help you with, or I'm just interested in sort of learning more about, your business and sort of keep me in the loop. All of these are an opportunity at different levels to start that sort of relationship building. Another thing you can do on your website is to have lead magnets. So a lead magnet, actually, I mean, the content planner I just gave you is actually an idea of a lead magnet. So on your website, you could have something like that, and you have a call to action saying, hey, I've got this really valuable content calendar. Obviously, you would make it specific to your audience. If you'd like to access it, please enter your details and then you can download it. And so that's a really clear value swap. So the client or the prospect is swapping their information, and in return, they're getting this really valuable piece of insight. And so this could be a research paper, it could be something to do that might be relevant to their business. The idea is, though, basically you're giving it for free, and in return, that you're getting their contact details. Another way to do this is running an event. So really, really popular, especially in the last year and a half, as everything has changed. So could be an online event like we're doing now. I've seen a lot of accountants and a lot of bookkeepers who do Q&As or sort of live updates. And they just basically put this out to all their lists, their email list, and they promote it on social. And this is just a great way that you can both offer value and demonstrate your expertise, and in return capture leads that you can then start building that relationship with. So I can't tell you the number of people who come and, to use Boma, and I'll ask them, or Sophia will ask them, when did you first hear about us? And I say, oh, well, we went to a webinar of yours or an event that you held 2 or 3 years ago, and we've kept in touch ever since. And now is the right time for us to commit. And so that's exactly the sort of, I suppose, proposition or sort of journey that I'm sort of talking about here, is that, you never know when a client might be in the room, or a prospective client might be in the right frame of mind to look for an accountant, or sort of make the jump and leave their current accountants and start looking for a new one. But you want to be top of mind and sort of in that consideration. And so you can do this by having webinars, events, by sending them newsletters, and you gather these email addresses through those methods I've just talked about. Also really good to promote these. So especially if you don't already have a large email list, put it out on your social channels, put it into your blog post. At the end of your blog post, you can have a little link to your lead magnet or your webinar saying, hey, if you'd like to learn more information about this, download or sign up for our event. Paid ads are great. So think about Google AdWords, Facebook, and LinkedIn are great as well. Again, depends on where your audience is, but they're also great for targeting people. So you could say, great, I want to target small business owners in this particular location who exhibit these behaviors, and then you can target them with ads. Other things in terms of audience building, make sure, as I said before, in terms of social, that you always link through to your website, have all that key information on there. And also just make sure when you are talking to prospects, or you're out there meeting people, maybe at a function, mention that you're holding an event, mention that you have a social page which is full of great insights that they might like to follow, or that you run a regular newsletter. which they might find interesting. All great options to promote, and all great ways to start building that audience without also seeming too salesy. There's one thing that is, I think, really common amongst accountants and bookkeepers, the feedback that I've had, is that there's a real aversion to seeming salesy, and I understand it. The great thing about sort of what we're talking about here is that you are marketing to them rather than selling to them, and you get in front of them, you build that relationship, you demonstrate expertise, you give them value. And so when it comes the time to have, I suppose, a more focused on sales conversation, you're not introducing yourself from scratch. You're not having to build that trust from scratch. You're not having to tell them the things that you specialize from scratch. They already know this, and they hopefully have a bit of an understanding about you as a firm and you as a person from the fact that they feel like they've known you, because just like we're doing now, they may have been to some of your events, they've seen your newsletter, they have been in your orbit and building that relationship for some time. What do we got next, Sophia?
I was going to say, I think that leads on quite nicely to my point as well. But yeah, going back to what you said as well, I really love that point that you make, that you might not get the client straight away if you're running a webinar, but they're going to think of you down the line. So yeah, it's definitely well worth, putting your content out there with consistency, because you're placing yourself as an expert. So when they need an expert, you're the person they think of, and you're not just a stranger. So that's a nice point. But yeah, the next point and final point from me was getting interaction. So actually having an interaction online via your emails or social media. So the great place to start is with good content that's actually going to be relevant to your clients and your audience. So it's all well and good having high interaction rates with other accountant firms on social media, but they're not going to make you money at the end of the day. The focus is establishing regular interactions with clients and prospects that are going to be meaningful to your business in the long run. Content itself could be, written. You could do, even if it's just a short 30-second video, if you're confident on camera, because it's a great way to convey a lot of information and do it quickly in a nice personal manner. Or you can put something like a poll online. So, that's going to get people interacting with your content. You can also ask direct questions on social media. For example, what do you think about X? And readers can respond. And if they do, make sure to engage as well, so you can really start a dialogue. But yeah, do you have anything to add, Charles?
I was just going to add, I had something to add, and that's completely slipped my mind. So if I remember, I'll come back to it. Another great question we had, and again, this is sort of directly relates to what you're talking about in terms of engagement. And I'm directly quoting here, but how do we get bums on seats for webinars? Because we have talked about engagement, we have talked about sort of running events. So to the person who asked this, well done. It's great that you are running webinars. I think there has been a sea change, as we said, in the last year, and I think it's important to remember that although for you guys the day-to-day, you think that the knowledge that you have sort of everyone understands it, whereas actually if you're a small business or a business owner out there, the information that you can offer them is highly valuable. So it's just a great way to do a webinar. It's one-to-many as well. So you can, in that time, instead of speaking to one person sort of face-to-face or over the phone, you can speak to 5, 10, 15 people about a topic, and they're interested because they've signed up. So A, great to do webinars, and B, how to get bums on seats. So if you are doing Facebook ads, sort of running them is one thing. What I'm going to talk about here is how do you make sure that, I suppose, when people see your ad, they engage with it and sign up for it? Because obviously, you might be working, or you might be doing it in Boma, but you might be doing it with a consultant. So saying that, you've got the targeting right, now we're going to talk about like what is going to make someone click on that ad. So think about, first off, the name and the topic of the webinar. Is this topic going to be of interest to the people that you hope it's going to be. And you can find out by doing a bit of research. So you might go out and speak to a few clients. You might do it on your Facebook page and run an informal poll. Just say, hey, here are some topics I'm thinking of doing a webinar. Why don't you vote for them? And then find out what they really want to hear about. And then when you do write down the title, more, less is more. So if you can say it in 6 words or 5 words rather than sort of 10, that's great. So short and concise and punchy. Then also think about, like, what are the 2 or 3 key points as to why they should join this webinar? Like, what are they going to get for it? Why is it worth their time? And then also think about your call to action. So what are you asking them to do? So the mistake I see oftentimes is that people say, you should come to our webinar, and then they have a link. And they don't tell the reader that they should register now or click here. And it's a mistake to think that people know exactly what you intend them to do. They're scrolling through maybe their social feed or their Facebook ads, and you just have to spell it out for them. So book now, register here, save my seat, are all really good calls to action, and it tells them exactly what they should be doing. The second piece, just because they've clicked on your ad doesn't mean that they have signed up yet. The second piece is that when they go to the registration page, again, you sort of have to resell it to them. So again, what are they going to get out of it? And the great thing about the registration page is that you can offer them more information. So instead of being limited maybe to 100 and 150 characters, you can now put a couple of paragraphs in there. You can have bullet points. You can have information about who's going to be speaking if there's more than one of you. You might have a guest on there. You can have images. You can have the guest CV. So there's lots of things that you can do to sort of make this, make the webinar just seem like, yep, this is going to be fantastic. Also good to be specific about the time that you're asking them to commit. So we asked you for 45 minutes today. I would suggest that unless it's a really specialist topic, 45 minutes is a nice length of time. Some other topics you might find that half an hour is enough. And then they'll know, great, I can commit to half an hour or 45 minutes, including questions, and then they'll sign up for it. So those are a couple of tips to making sure that you get bums on seats. If you do have an email list, as well as doing Facebook ads and promoting across obviously your website and your social channels, do always send it out to your email list, because that is always a very good source of leads for this. Couple of great questions, and this was about how do I filter people on my website? I suppose it's about filtering prospects, and I know a lot of people are trying to think about, how do I find my ideal client, or how do I make sure that the people who contact me from my website are the sorts of clients I want? And I think there's been a great shift in thinking on this, and I've definitely seen it with a lot of accountants and bookkeepers that we work with, which is I want to have more of the clients that are good for me and less of the ones that aren't. But how do I do that, especially up front in a nice way, in a way that's not going to annoy people? So one good way is to, on your lead capture form on your website, maybe it's your contact us form, is to have a drop-down menu. And I've seen this done quite a few times in the last few months, and it has questions about their business and about them. So it might be questions like, what is your business size? What's your turnover? What services do they require? The idea here is that they'll give you answers, and then before you even email them back, you can see, is this the sort of business I want to work with? And if they aren't, you can maybe have a stock reply or a stock sort of script, if you call them, that says, thank you so much for your inquiry, but we're not the right sort of firm, and maybe here's one that might suit them better. If they are the right sort of firm, you already know quite a lot about them. So you know exactly maybe some of the services they require, and you can start to think about strategically how that conversation is going to go. So one thing that we have seen on a few firms recently is actually on that lead capture form, basically it does it for them. And if they select, I suppose, features or services that the firm doesn't offer or they don't want to offer, then it will actually tell them on a lead capture form that they're not the right sort of firm. And obviously they do it in very empathetic language, but that even sort of stops it that one step further. So only qualified leads come through to their email. So this is a feature quite a few people have been asking from us in Boma. So we're actually building that onto our lead capture forms as we speak, and it should be ready in the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks. A couple of other good questions, and I know we're getting close to finishing. So 2 really good questions that sort of sum up a lot of the questions we got, which is knowing where to start with marketing, or I don't know where to start. How do I get started? I feel like I don't know the questions I don't know. Look, the thing with marketing that it is a bit of a journey, and we understand that you guys are accountants and bookkeepers, and maybe it's, you know, you either are doing maybe some of this yourself for your firm, or you have someone within your firm doing it for you. The thing is to, I suppose, pick a few things that you feel comfortable starting with. So maybe it's social, maybe it's getting your website up to scratch, maybe it's starting out on doing some, you know, some webinars or some social. The main thing is to get started, and sort of circling back to where we began, always good to have a plan. And even if your plan is only 5 lines long and it will just spell out what it is that you're going to do, that's going to help immensely. One thing I do have to share with you is actually our guide. So this is a digital marketing guide we've written especially for you guys. This covers everything from social, email, website, SEO, everything in more detail. So feel free to go in there. I've sent you the direct download link, so you don't have to enter any more details. You can print it out, share it within your organization. That's a great place to start. So like everything, it's all about knowledge, and I hope, you know, hopefully that will give you some more knowledge. Also, if you are a Boma user, and I know that some of the people on here are, you can reach out to us at any time. So if you've got questions about, you know, any of the topics that we've talked about tonight, we're always happy to give you some free advice. And we also do run lots of webinars. So on our website, we've got a webinars page, and there are lots of webinars talking about everything that we've talked about tonight in more detail. And there's also lots of blogs on there that you can go and check as well. So Sophia, have we had any questions come through in the meantime?
I can't see any currently.
So so just, I mean, we know we've got a minute or 2 to go. If anyone has a question maybe that we haven't addressed, or would have anyone they'd like to do. Oh, good, marketing KPIs. Thanks, Megan. And I actually do have some thoughts on that. So marketing KPIs is an interesting one, because, and a good place to start with is social media. So a lot of people in social media get caught up with vanity metrics. And so by vanity metric, I mean, how many likes or shares did a post get? How many followers do I have? And it's always better to have more. But actually you have to think about, you know, would I rather have 100 or 200 followers who are just people that maybe I bought them, maybe they're just random people, or would I rather have 50 followers who I know are my prospective clients or my ideal clients, because they're the people who are going to buy for you. So when it comes to sort of things on social and email, don't get caught up in vanity metrics and think that, oh, because I only got 5 likes on a post, that's no good. If you go and have a look at the people who liked your post and they're your ideal client market, that's fantastic. You've got 5 prospective clients who are interested in what you're saying. And I'd much rather have 5 of those people rather than 50, you know, school-age people, retirees, or sort of a whole random mixture of people who sort of aren't the people that you want. So be careful of vanity metrics. In terms of general metrics, again, coming back to that plan, you know, what is it that you want to achieve? And it might be that, you know, your end of year goals are like, right, we want to be active on 2 social channels. So we want to be active on Facebook and LinkedIn, and we would like to have 100 or 200 or 300 followers across both of them, you know, relevant followers. So that could be sort of one metric. And then you can sort of think, okay, as we go through the year, how are we tracking each month? Are we getting, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 followers per month? And are they starting to engage, and are they the right followers? In terms of sort of specific social post metrics, if you're doing just sort of organic posts, do be aware that the social networks, because they want you to spend money via their ad platforms, they have really clamped down on how much organic reach you will get. So, 5, 10 years ago, if I put out a post, I knew that a large proportion of my followers would see it. Nowadays, it's really small. It's about 2 or 3%. So there are some tricks you can do to increase that. So one of which is that you get engagement, as Sophia was talking about. So engagement could be a like, it could be a share, it could be a comment. And so there are ways that you can gain this. So if you've got some friendly clients, tell them that you've put out this post. And if you alert them to it, they might go and then read it and they might like it. You can also ask your colleagues or friends of yours to go and like it and share it. That's another way to comment on it. The key thing there is to sort of build a bit of momentum. Facebook and LinkedIn will be like, oh, this is a post which is getting good momentum, and therefore I'm going to open it up to some more people who might want to see it. At that point, if you wanted to, you could even boost it. So you could say, great, it looks like this is an interesting post. I'm going to put 10 quid or 20 quid and, for 5 days, and sort of see if I can get some more interest in it. In terms of email, so the sort of rule of thumb for email is that you don't want, in terms of unsubscribes, if you're getting any more than sort of 0.5 of a percent of unsubscribes from your email addresses, then something's not right. So maybe, if you've got sort of 2, 3, 4%, then either the emails that you're sending out aren't relevant or they're not right. Maybe they're too frequent. So think about how often you're sending out your emails. And this will also be reflected in the open rate. So a good open rate is sort of 28 to 40%. Again, if you're getting really small open rates, sort of 10%, 6%, 12%, think about why that might be. So is it something to do with the subject of the email? So if you just send out a newsletter and you call it July newsletter, that's terrible. And it's very unlikely that you're going to get a lot of people clicking through because you've given them no reason to. Whereas if you set it out, July tax news update, relevant to your firm in some way, oh, that gives me a reason to open it. I'm going to click on this link, that you've put in there. I'm going to open it. Click-throughs are sort of, it kind of depends. So click-throughs is basically of your email or of your social media post or ad, how many, so if 100 people see it or open it and 10 people click on it, then the click-through rate is 10%. So as a rule of thumb, for social ads and emails, 3-4% is really good. And that's basically where you might have a link in an email that people might click on, or you might have a call to action in a social post that people might click on. You might get more, which is great. Again, if you're getting less than that, then sort of have a think about what your call to action was. Was it compelling enough? Did you have all the right information? I suppose another, in terms of more businessy KPI, in terms of marketing the business, is if you're spending some money or some time on marketing and you're getting some clients or some leads from it, a really good way to sort of think about it is, okay, how much do I value those clients or those leads at? So you say, okay, well, I value each client at £2,000 and each lead is, a couple £100. Then you can say, okay, well, we spent, £5,000 on marketing in the last quarter. We got X number of leads or clients. And so we know what the cost per acquisition was. So this is cost per acquisition is a really key metric, because if you don't know what your cost per acquisition is, you might go and spend £10,000 and then you're sort of thinking, okay, well, we got two clients from that. Is that good or is that bad? And maybe that's good because your clients are worth £100,000 to a year, if they're big clients, and so you're willing to spend £5,000 on each of them. Or maybe that's not great because your clients are only worth £1,000 to you each year. So you really have to think about, what is each client or each lead worth to you? And then as you track your marketing activity, especially paid activity, you can say, okay, are we getting a return on investment? Because I suppose that's the ultimate goal of marketing is, you want it to drive it, more clients, or maybe you want your current clients to start spending more money. So you want to educate them about the services that you offer. So cost per acquisition is a really good one. Really, really good to sort of keep in mind, whether it's time that you're spending or money and time. That's always a good one to have.
Yeah, no, and just to make the point as well, that digital marketing guide has an analytics section as well, which is really great. It goes through everything and anything. So
Oh yeah,
definitely,
yeah, thanks. No,
definitely
that's
use
great.
that resource.
Yeah. Cool. Look, thank you everyone for your time. I know we've been a couple of minutes over the allotted 45 minutes, but hopefully it was interesting. I hope you find that content planner and that digital marketing guide really, really useful. Sophia, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I hope this helps.
And this was your first of Ask Me Anything, and Sophia and I are going to be running a lot more of these in the UK in the coming months. So do keep an eye out for future invitations. If you follow us on any of our social channels, we also put the invites out there. So that's another way that you can register for these.